G'day and welcome to the Hunters Campfire podcast. My name's Mark and along with good mate Ian, we're here to help with all things hunting. If you're looking to start but don't know where to begin, you want to make the most of your next trip away or even plan that hunt of a lifetime, we've got something for you. You'll find our podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon and plenty of others. And if you want more, head over to our YouTube channel, The Hunters Campfire, where we have plenty of how-to and hunting videos along with the full video production of every podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and good hunting.
Good evening and welcome to the Hunters Campfire podcast on a nice, cold, late May evening. Mark, how are you this evening, mate?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Ian, how's about yourself?
Well, like I said, it's cold. I'm up here on the downs and it's been raining. We had 100 mil last night. The sheep are clean. They've been washed out in the paddock and we're just not used to winter rain. So, it's been an interesting couple of days. That's all right. We get into it. We're getting ready to head back out to Nundle this weekend. So hopefully the rain doesn't follow us down there because we'll be wet, soggy and being chased around by leeches.
But I bet it's going to be cold.
A horrible thing. Yeah, it'll be cold. Yeah,
we're talking cold.
-2 degrees or something like that. And a quick trip to Nundle, sometimes you think, oh, do I want to leave the camper behind that's got a fireplace in it and just take the swag, or do I bother setting the whole thing up? It's a conundrum. It's all right. We've got Craig with us, and I'm not going to introduce Craig yet. Some people will try and figure out exactly who he is by the face, but this is a man that might often sit behind a camera, not in front of one, so people might not recognize Craig. Craig, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
This is not Jono 2.0. This is our guest for the evening, so you'll get to know him shortly.
I think we better explain that. Jono is currently crook. He's got COVID again for the 8th time or something like that.
Mm.
I didn't realise you could catch it 8 times.
No, we didn't either.
Wow.
The man seems to be a COVID magnet, unfortunately, so he's crook again. So.
Poor bugger.
Yeah, very good. Mark, red deer.
Red deer. So, as will soon be released in the video, I started my raw preparation in late January with a trip to the range, and I finished my raw on the 12th of May this year, and I didn't shoot a deer. I think I was at eight different occasions, maybe. I don't know. I've lost track. Bizarre. So before the raw, deer were everywhere. As soon as they started roaring, the block denuded itself of all deer. The stags went up onto the hills and just didn't come down. And I was there last Friday, and I saw 2 stags together, which pretty much said, well, the raw's over. And they were at 1,100 meters over 2 sets of different wire. So it would have had to been a very good double shot, a very good shot of a poacher to shoot over, double poach over 2 blocks to get them.
Sort of thing.
Though I did meet the property owner whose block I think they're on, so that might help me down the track. But unfortunately, so yeah, my red deer experience and my raw experience this year was a bust. Saw lots of deer.
But you were very picky, which is good. It's fine.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. And look, let's be honest. If I up there in February, if I wanted to shoot things, I'd burn a barrel out. But that's not what I wanted to do.
Very good. Craig, lots of trophies on the wall behind you. Did you get out and about and amongst the madness of what you've been up to recently?
To be honest, I only got out for about 4 days with a good mate of mine, Brad Murphy, the bow hunting coach. So, yeah, families got together over Easter and we got out for a couple of mornings, couple of close encounters with a fellow buck. But, unfortunately, the only thing I shot was a rabbit, and it was a very expensive rabbit, so I didn't get my arrow back. So, but it was, it was still good fun.
Yeah.
It's been a very busy time, busy start to the year, and all the plans I had for getting up on the red deer and fallow deer and things like that were just blown out of the water. So
Well, I'm sure.
Unfortunate, but there's plenty of exciting things coming up in the next couple of months. So
Yeah, I bet.
yeah, we're
I'm
very
sure with
excited.
friends like Brad Murphy, you've been out more than once.
We try to get out. We've got a really good solid group of people that love hunting, and we try and get out quite often and on a social level. And yeah, just enjoy it for what it is. So yeah, we try and make the most of that.
Well,
What
that's
about
good.
you, Ian?
About me, what, Mark? Out hunting.
But your the wrap up of the rut and rule for you.
Oh, look, I took a group out. A lot of people know I took a group out. 25 odd fellas came into camp over a 10-day period, which was great. We hosted it. Craig, you probably weren't following it, but we hosted it down in public land and just invited a lot of the listeners to come down and put a lot of the knowledge that we try and push out on socials into practice. A lot of people come that have never shot a deer. In fact, there were people came into the camp that had never seen a deer, never touched a deer, that managed to take their first deer, which was fantastic. And that's what it's all
awesome.
about. Yeah, it's just the best thing. And they get to bring it in. We run competitions. Some of them, I think, for old Dave shot his first deer ever, and I had a competition out there that said the hunter that brings the first carcass back into camp whole wins a prize, and it was going to be a butchery set. So we were going to butcher up the carcass, and then they would get the knife set at the end of it, which was a nice way to celebrate it. Well, he dragged that thing up and down a few gullies and back to camp. Still had the guts in it, so it was fairly heavy.
Baptism by fire, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And just to make it a little bit worse for him, he got that the day before the competition started, so we ruled him out. But that's just how rough hunt camps can be. But yeah, it's a great experience for people, and they all get to learn a little bit. So yeah, that's the way they go.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we managed to shoot a few deer to bring them into camp and show people around. My rut is not quite over. The deer are cycling again now, 6 weeks after the rut. So we're heading back to those spots that we've seen bucks this weekend for a quick check and see if there's a last chance of snagging one of the big ones that we saw, but we didn't quite get to bring into camp. So,
what do you think that is? What do you think that is that they're still going now?
I think some of the does wouldn't have become pregnant, and they'll cycle again. They cycle 6 weeks after the original rut. So there's a bit of a school of thought that says that the dominant stags will be completely shagged. There's a pun there by now, and it really gives the satellite bucks and some of the other ones a chance, I think, to get in, and they hang around. Whether the big ones are still there, I don't know. But
do you think that varies from location to location? Like,
I think the 6 week period doesn't change. That's just the cycle of the deer, and they'll do it 6 weeks after this 6 weeks as well. So they'll go 3 times, and those that are barren are barren, but by then the bucks have given up and they'll move off. And they'll bachelor up. But yeah, can be quite a productive time. The main stag of the area can become a bit lazier. I guess they're trying to feed up after they've been battling on for a while. We've got some amazing footage of a few bucks scrapping, and just for hours and hours and hours they just fight and they don't stop, and they're just blood everywhere. It's just crazy how hard they go. Shocking. And there's been some stuff that's gone up on the socials recently, and this poor buck, he's down and out on the ground, and the dominant is just smashing into him.
Yeah.
Like there's no mercy. And then they're buddies again. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Go hang out in the paddock afterwards.
Yeah, that's right. For 10 months of the year, they're best mates.
Having a punch up on the rugby field and shaking hands on the way off.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit strange, but nature's pretty fun like that to watch. So, okay, so Craig, let's talk a little bit about why we have you on the show. And like I said, most people won't recognise you as Craig Pringle, but you, I'm assuming, owner-director of Black Fox Productions.
Yep.
Right, and some people may know Black Fox Productions from other things, but most exciting for all of us in the hunting community at the moment is that you've put together the program that aired last week called The Season.
Yeah,
and
that's right. Yeah.
We have been waiting and waiting and waiting for this to come out. It's been I'm sure you have as well. But
Yeah, you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I'm sure. And we interviewed Dylan on the show. Oh, it would have been a year ago, just before your crew was going to show up at Dylan's place to start some filming. So there was a bit of an air of excitement around it at that point. But hey, congratulations! It's out now.
Thank you.
How's week one been? You must have had a lot of feedback.
Mate, it's been, look, we couldn't have timed it any better because we had Wild Deer Expo
Right.
this last weekend. And I went down there and, but yeah, like the show aired on Wednesday night. The feedback's been fantastic. I mean, we've just had a lot of love in the Instagram messages coming through from everyone. A lot of interest from all over Australia. So yeah, I couldn't be happier with the way that it's gone. I mean, I guess the relief is now that it's out and everyone can, you can access it, and it's relatively easy to access through either Binge or My Foxtel or live on Foxtel. So there's a few options and a few ways you can watch it. I mean, I would have liked it to come out, 6, 7, 8 months ago, but there was a lot of work that went into convincing the powers that be. There were, promises made. There was, I'm not going to name any names, but there were certain networks that accepted the pitch and the show, and then 2 months go down the track, and then that's revoked, and we can't can't move forward. So that's part of the reason why it took so long. So for everyone that's been hassling me for the last year, I mean, I apologize for that, but we didn't give up. We fought real hard to get it on there, and I'm really, really happy that it's out there now, and we can keep pushing and keep going for series 2 and 3 and 4, and just keep telling, the good stories about hunting and Australian hunters, and putting it on the world stage. So.
Oh, that's a backstory I wouldn't have guessed. But so for those that you see in the socials saying, "I wish it was free to air. I wish it was over here. I wish it was there." Go and flog your mates Foxtel login and go and watch it if that's what you got to do. But at least it's out, right? That's great.
Yeah, binge is $15 a month. So cancel Stan and get Binge.
jump over for a couple of months. No, that's all right. Well, good on them for supporting it. And so can you maybe give us just a little bit of the what's to come, and not certainly not the characters and the storyline, but what is the average viewer gonna see here? We've bumped into 3 different groups, I guess. I was going to say characters, but there's a couple of couples there, or not couples, couple of duos. Are we going to continue to see them? Is this an evolving story for them? Because
that's exactly right. Yeah. So what I wanted to do with the show was give it a completely different format, so a completely different feel. I've worked for a long time in TV, and I've worked on reality TV shows and documentaries and all that sort of stuff, and I just felt like there was room in the market, so to speak, for a hunting show to have a different format and to be able to tell multiple stories all through a series. And that's what we've done. So we've got, there's 6 different groups or duos or, pairs of people that we follow along their hunting season. And that's where the name came from, the season. So the idea was, if we had endless money and time, I would have loved to have just gone and spent, 3 or 4 months with each person and just hung out and gone hunting every day, but that's just not a reality. So what ended up happening was we would go and spend time with these people in hunting camp and just document everything that happens and just ask them questions along the way, and just find out more about them as a person, find out why they hunt, and why they do what they do, what their background is, because what I've tried to do as well is bring in people from all different backgrounds. So we've got, Patrick Galvin, who's, he's a very accomplished corporate businessman. He works in the city in a suit day to day, and he's connected with Brad Murphy, learnt the art of archery and bow hunting, and now he's obsessed with it. And he's relatively new to it, but I'm not going to spoil what happens in the show, but some pretty
No, don't do
crazy
that.
stuff happens in the show down the track. So, yeah, I mean, and it was just really great to hang out with people like him. He's just so passionate about it. He's an amazing guy. He runs ultra marathons. He does the hut to hut 100Ks through the mountains, and and he loves bow hunting, and that's just a new obsession that he's got. And then there's other people like Ben Solaris, who's also a great mate of mine now. Got to spend a lot of time with him in hunting camp, and he's been bow hunting since he was knee high. He's been chasing his dad, Pete Solaris, was one of the original bow hunting founders there in Tully for the Tully Bow Hunters Club. And he was taking Ben hunting in Cape York, when he was 5-6 years old, running around chasing pigs. So, there's two very big contrasts in experience and I guess life experience as well. But at the end of the day, we're all hunters, and we all come together at the end, and we've got one thing in common: we love hunting, and that's the whole point of it. That's the point of the show, is to tell those stories from all different perspectives and make it appealing and palatable for the general public as well. That was always a big thing for me. I wanted to make it easy, wanted to make it interesting enough for experienced hunters to watch and go, oh yeah, I'll take something away from that episode, but also entertaining enough and I guess easy enough to watch so that a non-hunter could watch it and actually see our point of view and take something away from it. So I think we've found a good balance.
Yeah, great. It'll be really interesting to watch it play out. It kind of has a feeling like the Alone series that's out when you're talking about introducing the different personalities.
Yep.
Good to hear. Now I know, and other people will hear it shortly. There's 6 personality types, if you like, or 6 groups of people. So we're clearly going to meet the other 3.
That's right.
Tomorrow night, being Wednesday.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So that's good. We'll get to understand who the other personalities are.
So half-hour episodes, it's 3 segments. So the idea is that over each episode we rotate and cycle through those 6 storylines. So it's a continuation as it goes through. So like the end of the first episode, it teases Ben Solaris and Pete Solaris going out for their hunt in Cape York. So that's where it'll pick up in the next episode, and so on and so on. So it's sort of that binge format.
Yeah.
Where, once it's all available online, you could just sit there and watch it all in one go, and it's just going to be like one big series. So yeah, it all just sort of ties in.
Mm.
So the name itself, because I mean, it's interesting because I've had this discussion, sometimes heated, with people that there isn't such a thing as a season in hunting. I actually think that's wholly incorrect. I think there is, and I think our conversation about when deer rut is a fine example of that. So I actually quite enjoy or I quite appreciate the idea that it's about season or seasons. So what's the kind of your thoughts behind why you went that particular way in terms of its title?
So my first train of thought was I didn't want to have anything in the name that mentioned hunting. So that was my first thing. I thought I don't want to have any name associated with the word hunting or hunter or anything like that. Obviously, Meat Eater was taken, so I
yeah, it was.
Yeah. So
well, you can always spell it MEEET. You get away with that.
Yeah.
Meat and Eater.
Or like M33T.
Yeah, 3.
No, but yeah, so I just wanted something that was different, and then I was, I guess that it was also the format that I was thinking about. I was writing, synopsis for myself, trying to explain, get what was in my head out on paper or in words, and the first line that came out was following hunters during their hunting season, and I was like, oh, hang on, well, this is the season. So and I think it's kind of interesting that yeah, as you said, I think we're lucky in Australia. We don't really have a hunting season. Our hunting season's the whole year, really. There's always something that we can hunt. Not so much the case in other countries, but I think that's what's special about us as a hunting community here in Australia. So that's pretty much where it came from.
Yeah. So I to me, the idea of season is that, you know, we don't have them, as in we don't have a calendar that says, you know, from here to here, but they exist. And that's kind of what I really like about that message, that, you know, it kind of exists outside of you saying, okay, it starts here and ends here. No, that's what you reckon. But outside of that, it's actually, there is a season. It exists. Deer, duck, everything has, you know, has a natural season, as it were.
Yeah.
Or even when I see, you know, like in your, you know, with the fishing and stuff like that, there is seasons, but we just, you know, we try to think, you know, we overlay the calendar and think that's how the animals act. No, it's kind of the other way around.
Yeah, exactly right. I think, as overall, you know, as a hunter or a fisherman, you know, there's always something that you can chase. There's always something that you can do. I think just the way that it works out is that obviously, you know, around now we've just had the rut and the raw, and then the next thing that's going to come up, you know, start preparing for backpack season for sambar deer in September and chasing stags, and then, you know, just quietly go up to Cape York in June when it's nice and cold, and in Victoria we go to Cape York and chase pigs and buff and other species. So there's always something that we can chase. So our season's always going. We're always looking for our own hunting season.
Yeah. Fantastic. So the people that you eventually had on the show, where did you, I use the word source them from? Were they known personalities to you before you pulled this together, or like what was your process of identifying 6 unique characters?
So I started. This was a bit of a labour of love over COVID. So during the first lockdown, obviously the TV industry and everything shut down. I had a lot of time on my hands. I was sitting at home and I was like, right, well, this is the time I can actually make use of my time here and start working on this passion project of mine and actually put the time that it deserves into it. So I started looking around, you know, stalking people's profiles on social media and things like that. And I actually put it actually cracks me up because I put a couple of posts up on a couple of the Facebook pages, like Hunting Australia and a few others. I can't remember. I literally just put a post up saying, hey, I want to do a documentary series about hunters. If anyone's keen, like, I'd love to just, you know, have a chat, start a conversation. And literally, like, all the comments were like, oh, yeah, what a way to try and get onto someone's property, or you're going to steal people's hunting spots and this and that. And
geez, we're not a cynical bunch at all, are we?
So I was cracking up. But then that's actually how I met Patrick. Like, Paddy was just, he's, you know, straight into it. Yep, I'm keen. I'll chat to you. And I got on the phone. We spoke for a couple of hours, and we've literally been mates ever since. So, it just happened to be that he was talking to Brad about archery coaching. I knew Brad through actually doing his bow hunting seminars and courses. I'd done one of his courses a couple of years ago. So, that just kind of all worked out. Ben, same deal. Like, I just contacted him, said, you know, would you be interested in doing this with me? And he was very, very supportive. Sarah was the same.
Sarah's the chef, right?
Yeah, she's a chef.
Yep.
She was the chef from Tassie. Eamon Waddington as well. He's another great mate. It was actually funny because I was talking to Eamon Waddington. He runs Broadside Hunting up in New South Wales. And I was talking to him for quite a while about the show. And we were actually trying to come up with ideas of who we could get on the show, like for ages. And then I was like, hey, why don't you just do it? And
Aidan was the first fella, wasn't he?
Eamon, yeah.
Eamon, sorry, yeah. Eamon.
Yep, first guy in the first seg. So I was like, you teach people how to hunt all the time. Like, why don't you just do it? And he was like, yeah, okay. He took a little bit of convincing, but got him on board and it just sort of made sense. And then same with Dylan. Dylan and Kira, we just started chatting to them, and I just love what they're doing. You know, like they're an awesome power couple. walk the walk. You know, they really live the lifestyle that we all dream of, and yeah, it was really cool to get up there and see what they get up to. So all in all, it was essentially just a process of Facebook stalking and reaching out to the network of people that I knew already, and it all just sort of happened from there. There was a lot of conversations, you know, we trying to, I guess there was probably a few people that we vetted that kind of went, oh, maybe this is not the best look for TV and hunting, you know. But yeah, I thought it was funny that everyone thought I was just trying to steal people's hunting spots and get the good oil on where they were trying to hunt. So
Well, but
it worked out all right.
Yeah,
it worked out all right.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be interesting to meet some of the other ones as they come on next week. The other question I was going to ask you was, so obviously hunting is a passion of yours, which is why it was a pet project. Mm-hmm. Completely different to all of the other stuff you've done. I was just quickly searching the website, you know, your website, and you've done stuff for Honda and Isuzu and most of the free-to-air channels. Like, there's lots of work that you've done corporately. Yeah. How different was it working with those professional organizations versus trying to pull together your own show, you know, for something that is, you know, you're obviously passionate about? It's, you know, you're not hiring, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, well, so we've got a production company that we've been running for the last 3.5 years. And then in the last 2 years, it's gone gangbusters, really. We've got another show that we've developed, pitched, and put to air, that's currently on air at the moment as well, on SBS, called Wild Food. And so that's essentially following a chef, Karnong, who was on MasterChef. I've taken him all around Australia and put him in some really crazy situations. And again, it's my passion. And we've gone bluefin tuna fishing and samba deer hunting. We've gone fallow hunting in Tassie. We've gone trout fly fishing in Tassie. We've cooked wild boar up in Mission Beach. So again, still following that passion. So we've got that up at the moment. And when the season started, when we started doing that, I've got a lot of good friends and work colleagues that I've worked with that really just went above and beyond to make this happen. So Tim Wise he's actually the series producer on The Block. He jumped. I'll tell you a funny story in a minute, but yeah, he came on board to give me a hand at the start. And Tom Eglinton, another camera operator who works on The Block with me in the past, he jumped on board and gave us a hand. And Travis Wood, Soundo, came and gave us a hand. So there's a bunch of really awesome guys that are really good at what they do and professionals and work in the industry that put their hand up and gave us a chop out, really, and we ended up with a cool show to show for it. And like I said, we started talking about this and planning this in COVID during that first lockdown. And at the time, I was working on The Block, and that was the only show that didn't get shut down because it was a building site when we were in lockdown. And
loopholes.
That loophole. Yeah. And so, which was, I'm not going to complain. It was a
COVID didn't like hammers.
No, it was weird though. Like we had, anyway, we got in there and they built like it was like a set out. Literally, it was a TV set, but we had like, radioactive tents and stuff that we had to walk through and get sprayed. Anyway, that's another story. But that that series finished, and I literally remember sitting there and I had the whole first series for the season mapped out. It was all on paper, like had everything done, everyone locked in, and then it was. They were about to go into lockdown again, I think. And I rang Tim, who was the producer, and I rang Tom, and I rang the other guys, and I was like, we've got to do this and we've got to do it now. I'm going to leave at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. This is on a Saturday. I was like, I'm going to leave tomorrow at 5 a.m. and drive to New South Wales, and we're going to start filming. Are you in? And they both went, fuck yeah, we'll see you at 5 a.m. So I literally got up, drove to...
from Victoria, right?
From Victoria, so I picked them both up at 5 a.m. on the Sunday with the car, with the 4B full of camera gear and camping gear, hunting gear, and we just went north and that was pretty much the rest is history. We went up to a hut up in the New South Wales Highlands there at Eamon's place, and we just started filming. And then from there we went to far north Queensland. From there we went to Cape York. Ended up in Pomperol, and I think we're away for about 6 or 7 weeks in the first in the first little stint. So yeah, it was really good. Like it was a interesting mission for COVID anyway. So we got out of lockdown for a little bit with permits. Everything was legit.
Yeah.
We didn't break any rules.
Border raiders, border jumpers.
Yeah, it got easier the further you went north. So.
Yeah, exactly. But we didn't break any laws, just in case anyone's thinking that. But yeah, we went north as soon as we could. So yeah, it was really cool to have those guys back it and get it done essentially. Yeah.
So, sorry, Mark.
You go, Ian. Go.
I was just going to say, so you found those personalities. You got the recording underway. Obviously, you went up and around north. What you were saying before. How long did it take you to capture the content? You said that you were quite well delayed, just through various different commercial conversations you were having. But like,
everyone was different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every storyline was different. Tassie, we managed to get out of the way. Like we got it done pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Dylan and Kira, we got we got a lot of content in. I can't remember how long I was up there for. I think it was 10 days or two weeks. So I can't remember exactly. So yeah, we got a lot of content out of that. Up with Eamon, it was the same deal. We had about 2.5 weeks up there. It was about 4 weeks in total going between. I don't want to ruin it, but like yeah. So what?
No, don't do that.
There was a fair bit of travel happening in Queensland. So between far north Queensland, somewhere slightly south, and then back up to Cape York. And then probably the one bit of content that took the longest. To get, I don't want to ruin it, but
no, no.
The Victorian stuff took the longest. Put it that way.
And it was the closest to home.
It was the closest to home. So it literally took us 1 year to the day.
Wow.
To get all the things done that we needed to get done. Yeah. It was a mission.
So what does 1 year translate into production for you guys?
Yeah, where I was going with that too.
What's the ratio here?
What is that? That's...
How many episodes do we expect? Is that a secret?
So there's 8 episodes.
And
so
that's 4 hours, I suppose. Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, but not. It's probably about 40 minutes. 40 minutes of used content for the show.
But in a year.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
And that's 40 minutes. That's 40 minutes of the Samba crew.
Yep. So you can do the math. I'm not going to ruin it, but yeah, the bow hunting coach, the bow hunting student, and Samba deer.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was obvious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Episode number 1, the two guys wandering out with their bows in the afternoon on the crunchy leaf, and most won't think this way, but we do. We put our amateur stuff out on YouTube, and it's more to help others understand what we're doing so they can get into what they're doing. So we try and do it as educationally as we can. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, crunchy leaves, middle of the afternoon. I don't know how many camera guys and sound guys that were behind them at the same time. How's this going to happen? Exactly. So I could see that could have been frustrating at a period of time.
Yeah. We certainly learnt a lot when it came to filming. I guess what happened, the reason why that started at that time was because we just had to start filming. It was a warm time of year, and we're like, well, we're here now. We might as well start. Let's start the storyline happening and getting getting it going. And there's certainly there's a journey that progresses on from that first little night in camp. We actually that day, that follow. Oh, hang on, I've got to make sure again. I don't want to ruin it, but there was some close encounters that happened at that time, you know. So even when it's warm, it's not impossible to do, and that's with 4 people. So
when you're in, from the production side of things, so what is that? So there's the people hunting. So is there? Do you have a camera person, or do you have or a separate sound person, or is that happen the same? How's that work?
yeah,
I mean, it sounds like a huge production.
yeah. No. What we try. One thing that I was set on doing when I started this was I wanted to treat it like any other TV show that I've ever worked on. There was nothing going to be any different about it. Obviously, running around mountains chasing wild animals has its challenges.
That's what I mean. I admire that you wanted to make. I admire that you want to make it like every other TV show, but.
Yeah.
I mean, the block might be a fight, but at least they're inside a house.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. It was it was a lot of work.
Right. Imagine the block. First, we have to find the contestant. They're up there on that mountain somewhere,
and then you got to shoot them.
That's right. You got to find them, okay, and then and they might not want to be found. And and
then you got to get into 30 yards. But don't shoot yet because we've got to film it.
That's right. Are you ready? No, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
So.
No, but it was certainly we learned a lot. It was tough. Look, to the credit of the guys and girls that are on the show, they're very skilled hunters, and I guess it's sort of taking your hunting skills to the next level, having a 6'3" bloke with a camera behind you, traipsing around the bush trying to get the job done. So it's credit to them, really. They're amazing. I got yelled at a lot.
Were you the camera guy?
Yeah, I was the camera. I was
the camera
guy. Yeah,
yep.
So how many? What was the crew then?
There's 2 cameras. So there's two cameras. I was camera A, and then Tom was camera B. And we had a producer. I produced a lot of it myself. Tim was a producer on the first 2 trips, so he came along for that. And we also had a soundo for the first couple of trips, but we ended up deciding that I would just do the sound because it just ended up getting too hard having that many people getting around. So there's master interviews, which we had soundos for, but all the location field stuff was just, basically 2 cameras. I ran sound.
And are you carrying professional cameras?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I've actually got it right here.
Yeah, show us.
That wasn't planned, by the way.
Yeah.
No, I'm really interested. So
you're right, eh? Dragging that around the bush.
You know what? I saw one of those today.
Yeah.
It's
not
light. I saw one of those today. I was at the airport and this woman walked past and she was carrying just the box without the lens in it. And I thought, that's an interesting looking camera.
Yeah. So we because we wanted to have obviously broadcast quality stuff. We used the highest quality cameras that we could, and we broke a couple of cameras. We smashed a couple of cameras. We went through some gear. It was tough on the gear, that's for sure. So,
you must have had some moments on the way out where close calls that didn't quite come off, or broken camera, something like that. Knowing you have to come back and have another crack at it.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of close calls actually. We had we dropped. I think I went through 2 cameras, two C300s.
What are they worth to throw, Craig?
For the camera, fully rigged up, probably about 18 grand. Yeah, between 18 and 22. Luckily, I got good insurance. I didn't tell them what I was doing.
Edit.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Can you please take that out? Yeah.
Take that out. Wow.
No. And we had some major car issues with the 4-wheel drive up north. We had, not naming any names, we had someone medevaced out of Cape York. So we had some good injuries. We've had there's a few stories there.
Is there going to be a behind the scenes version of this once it's finished? You don't have the bloopers reel?
I've actually got a folder of all the behind the scenes stuff that we started filming, but there's probably a lot of it would probably not the best idea to put that
Yeah.
out.
It'd be
But
interesting to watch.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a wholly, it's really eye opening when you talk about that, because I suppose we've almost got too familiar with YouTube and self filming and things like that, but this is just well, it's not even
yeah,
next level. It's kind of next planet.
yeah,
It's such a significant jump up that it must be a wholly different experience. As you said, because
yeah.
that doesn't look like something you can sneak around in with that.
No, no. Yeah, you sort of get used to it. There's a thing called a cine saddle, which is like I don't know if you've ever seen them. It's like a strap that goes over your shoulder
Yeah.
and like a beanbag. And that was a savior. That was really, really handy. Just having that sitting there, walking around on that, it just takes the weight off your shoulders. So as we went on, we had there's a couple of little tools that we had that made life a little bit easier. But yeah, it was just one of those things. Like as a camera operator, you kind of get used to just holding a camera on your shoulder the whole day. So that's just what you do. But I think the biggest learning curve was, and we definitely got better as we progressed, was like the whole stalking and being aware of your surroundings. It just, as a hunter, it just brought a whole new level and appreciation to stalking and planning your stalks as well. Like that was a massive thing, and I learned so much from like Ben Solaris, for example. I mean, he just moves so well through the bush, and he'll say, stay here, wait for me, go here, plan. It's all strategic, planned out, and next minute we're 20, 30 yards from a rooster or a chital stag or something like that. And you learn a lot when you're walking behind someone like that, constantly watching every step. It's really interesting, and it's really cool to see everyone's skills progress as we went, because there's a lot to think about, and being aware of your surroundings. Obviously, other crew members that not be used to firearms and crocs or fires or any of those sort of things. You got to have your head on a swivel, really, when you're looking through the camera the whole time, and you got to be really careful. And we had a couple of close calls and a couple of injuries, but all part of the parcel.
They all survived. Yeah, I just can't even fathom how you put the crew behind a bow hunter who would normally be on his own.
Yeah, that was mainly just me and myself and the bow hunter. Like when we were bow hunting, it was a little bit of a different story. So what we would do is we'd have the crew would do our we call them OTF, so on the fly interviews. So we'd do our OTF interview prior to engaging on the stalk, and then once that stalk, once we engage stalk mode, everyone would drop back, and then the bow hunter and I would just stalk in. So it'd just be two of us for that part of the thing and try and close the gap. So yeah, there was certain times, but yeah.
You mentioned that this is a passion project for you, which is that. So what's the passion then? So how did you get to the passion of making that? So what's the passion behind making the movie? Are you the series? Is hunting something that you've always done? Is that the passion there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, I've just grown up fishing, being outdoors, camping, a little bit of hunting when I was younger. I grew up in South Africa. So in South Africa, it's obviously, pretty common, but it's also harder unless you know someone with a farm. It's not like we're really lucky in Australia. It's not like here where you can just, go out in public. So, I had family, friends. I was sort of around it, but I left and moved to New Zealand when I was 14.
I was going to say you had a very New Zealand-sounding South African accent going on there.
Bit of confusion going on. So yeah, so I lived in New Zealand all through my teenage years, and that was sort of where the outdoor lifestyle and the passion really came from. And then moving here, being exposed to everything here was just like another level, really, seeing all the opportunities that were available around Australia. So I guess, yeah, the passion for me is being a passionate hunter, being a passionate fisherman, and doing a lot of four drive camping, things like that. I've worked on a lot of adventure shows, so I've worked on a lot of four drive shows and fishing shows and things like that. So I've always seen how things could be done, and I've never thought that there was anything that represented the hunting community for Australia well.
Good on you.
And I also just felt that, I don't know, like there's a lot of obviously hunting content around that may not necessarily paint the best picture to the outside world. So I wanted to just try and do something. Like I've always been open about hunting and what I do and what I enjoy doing. I've never shied away from telling random people at a dinner party or a kid's birthday party or whatever that I'm into hunting and what I've been up to on the weekend. And I've never had any issues. And so I could never understand why there was so much hatred or, angst against our way of life and what we do. So I wanted to, essentially just show the other side of hunting and get that message across that we're not just, bloodthirsty, beer drinking, shooting up the bush, stereotypical hunter. We actually care about the environment. We care about conservation and all those words get thrown around a lot. But I mean, it's the truth. Like we do care about it, and we probably do more. Not probably, we do more than majority of the population to make sure that we've got bush to go to and hang out in and keep the hunting heritage going. Or our kids, really. So
yeah, I mean, we had Peter Ryan on very recently, and he was talking about his connection to some of the stuff that he's been involved in Africa, and it's of a grand scale what he's talking about in terms of the conservation activities there, and really significant. Yeah. But certainly, I think that's a worthy message. It's an interesting thing, and we've all got views in it because we've all seen it and been exposed to it. That idea of the role of what a hunter is, I think, is very difficult for people to articulate. So any kind of thing that helps articulate that to a wider audience is certainly a worthy cause. What's it all about? And I think because in Australia there's more of a linkage to shooting than there is hunting, as in it's shooting for pest mitigation or crop protection or something like that.
Yeah.
Or some kind of commercial activity like roo shooting or what once upon a time was croc shooting and things like that. Whereas I think the hunting has somehow got lost in all that.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
and everyone's story is different.
Yeah.
Everyone's story is different. That's sometimes you see that as well, where like even between the subcultures of hunting, there can be some, I don't know, disagreements, I suppose you could say. But at the end of the day, we're all passionate about the same thing, and even though we've got a different background, different story, we all end up at the same point. So
yeah, that's again, that's a really important point because like in Tasmania, hunting wallaby is a completely, it's a traditional activity, and they hunt them with dogs. The dogs drive them and they shotgun them, and because wallabies are regarded as a species that need controlling, and this is seen as a control activity. I remember recently, and I think these things kind of shock people sometimes because we tend to think about kangaroos and roo shooting for dog food and that kind of, like some guy leaning out of a truck on a spotlight and there's a whole pile of kangaroos with no tails or something like that.
Yeah. It's the most efficient way to do it too.
That's right. Well, it is. That's right. If the outcome is that, then that is the best way to do it. I didn't realise, for instance, that in Tasmania the kookaburra is an introduced species.
I didn't know that.
That's right, and they cull kookaburras.
There you go.
I did not know that they introduced kookaburras. And so that was when you think about, you kind of go, how's that possible? That makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that heritage in Tasmania about taking wallabies for food and hunting them, and as I said, they drive them with dogs and things like that. It's wonderful that actually gets seen, because that's if there's anything that's a truly Australian hunting activity, it's probably that. It's in its approach to a native species that's that's traditional, that's been going for I don't know for how long, and it's seen as a completely sustainable approach to that. Same with duck hunting too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it's interesting, like the whole I guess the perception of culling and all that sort of thing, as opposed to hunting and having hunters manage different species. Obviously every state's different and every animal species is different. But then, as an example, you look at Victoria with, the aerial culling that's going on all through the high country, and they indiscriminately taking out, massive numbers of animals, and also then dropping 1080. But the perception is that that's okay by the public, or the media or whoever you want to say. But then, if hunters are up there hunting one deer for some meat for to take home for your family, like that's seen as killer or unacceptable. I don't know. Like I certainly know which way I'd rather go.
Yeah,
poisoning the thing. So and that's probably getting on the political side, but it's interesting, and I think that's again to reiterate the point of the whole point of the show is to push that message and to show the general public why we do what we do and who we are as a collective of hunters. So
I think it is a really interesting topic. You said before that you couldn't understand the hatred towards the hunter or the dislike of the hunter, given that most of the conversations you'd had around it, people weren't against it.
Or too
it's
scared
actually
to say something.
Well, I mean, Mark made a point quite a few discussions ago that, and you'll correct this statement, Mark, go for your life here, but that people are more uncomfortable with the fact that you can be uncomfortable, or you're putting yourself in. You'll remember the way that you put it, Mark, but people just don't understand it, and because they don't understand it, it makes them feel awkward, and it doesn't necessarily mean they don't like it. They just need some explanation.
Exactly.
I work in a corporate environment outside of podcasting and hunting, and I openly talk about it in my work. I'll show up to meetings with 30 people on my day off if I'm in the bush, if there's something to listen to or have a conversation about, because I need to, and people, they just know what I'm up to, and it's okay. And a lot of them have come up and expressed an interest in getting involved, and how do you go about it, and can you share the meat, and I'd love to try it. But every now and then you get someone who's a little bit different, and I remember this one person who I worked with who assumed that because I was a hunter that I just wanted to kill everything. And it was quite upsetting to me to think that that's the way they felt. And this person moved to a property that had deer, running around in one of the back paddocks, and I heard the conversation in the background. Don't tell Ian, he'll show up and kill him. And I'm like, well, hang on, that doesn't make any sense. That's like saying you're female, so I'm attracted to you, and all of that. It's just not real.
Control.
That's right. It's just bizarre how people's brains work, but the majority of people are absolutely fine with it. Some need some explanation.
I totally agree. And just to go on that, like, I think it's really great what you guys are doing with your hunter education and that sort of thing. Like, I think there's a lot of, especially given the pandemic and the things that were happening then, meat not being available, and that was a real key moment for me when that started happening, because I was like, this is the right time to get this messaging out for the show, especially. But there was a lot of people that were getting in touch with me and saying, oh, by the way, like, have you been out hunting lately? Have you got any meat? Like, and I was sort of started answering those questions, and what
all of a sudden,
let me get my cash register.
Exactly right.
How much was that camera?
Yeah. I've got a very deep chest freezer, so we just
it's now $1,800 a kilo.
Yeah, yep, exactly. But I think one thing that I learnt from all of that and chatting, like just chatting to, and these are people that I know in everyday life, like neighbours and dads from childcare and all that sort of stuff. And I think one thing that I realise is that we might take our lifestyle a little bit for granted, in that it's pretty gnarly what we do. It's really daunting for some people to take on. Like, I think that the idea of it, the romantic idea of it, is there, but the actual doing of it is it's pretty.
It's so true.
It's hard work. Like, it's not easy. You don't just walk out there and do it. Like, it can be brutal. There's so many elements to it, and for someone that has had no previous experience with a firearm, for example, or previous experience in the bush, you give some guy on the street or girl on the street, be like, hey, here's a backpack, here's a gun, here's some ammo. All you got to do is drive 4 hours that way and then hike for 7 hours up that hill. Make sure you don't leave anything behind. Like, it's to us, we could literally talk about that and go, oh yeah, cool, we'll do that on the weekend. But
don't excite me.
Exactly. Yeah, someone that's never done it before, it's a massive ask, and it's very daunting. So anything like what you guys are doing, just to get that,
just some practical experience.
Yeah, practical experience, and just to have the opportunity to try that out and be around like-minded people, like build the confidence around it, and that's great. Really fantastic stuff.
I've been writing about this whole thought process a lot. And I mean, I think actually the last thing I just submitted to the publisher today was one of the things that hunting does, and I mean, in a way, your show brings this to the fore, is that there isn't much, unless you're involved in it professionally, as in you're a doctor or a nurse or something like that, you don't see death much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, It's not around you, and so what you do as a hunter, you actually kind of drop yourself right in the middle of that. And I think and some of the criticism comes is that that's you're a killer and all that stuff. Well, yeah, kind of I am. Yeah. But so are you when you buy stuff from Coles. It's just that you're like the mafia boss. And you've paid the button man to go do the job for you. It's kind of I'm just one down the chain, as it were. Exactly, it's still the same process, and that whole, people say, life happens and death, but it all happens, and I think one of the, the true, your show kind of highlights that when you're looking at the shorts of people are cooking and they're saying, I've got control of what I'm eating because I've actually sought a level of control in the killing of it. I've been part of the process. Yeah. And I think for many people that is very confronting, because they're so removed from food in terms of not the eating part, not the MasterChef part, or Salt Bay guy. It's that's okay. That's way up one end. What it is, it's down the other end, downstream is where the food, or from a supply chain, that's where it all starts. And we're further down the supply chain, so we get to see those things. And I suppose for you the nice the eloquent bridge for that is that you're filming the TV show that looks really glamorous, but you're not seeing, you're breaking cameras and falling down. That's happening to see that. And I think that's one of the, I actually think that's and from a hunting point of view, I think that's one of the great privileges of hunting, that we actually are involved in that process rather than being dispossessed of that process. And in terms of talking about it, I think what happens is you just become comfortable with the fact that you're comfortable with what you do. And so you just, people say, what do you do? I hunt. And I say it all the time, and I'll talk about it openly. And, and most people are kind of going, I don't understand this. I have no anchor on this, but I'm kind of interested in what you're saying. Very few people, but there is those who kind of just make a judgment call, but they're the kind of people who make judgment calls on the fact that you drive a Kia or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to make a judgment call on anything you do. So, almost kind of it's kind of like when the Olympic diving coach scores it, they cut the bottom score and the top score, and it's the ones in the middle that really mean anything. And I think for most of us, those conversations with people in the middle who may have no knowledge but have an inkling of, or even the thought process of, I don't know this, but I'd like to understand it. That's where the social license lay, and that is something that Ned Macon often talks about. Is, you won't convince the people at both ends. At one end is the people who are already on your side, and you can do anything. There's at the other end of the people who will hate you for whatever reason,
and you're not going to change that.
That's right. You kind of just go,
no matter how great the cinematography is.
You just cut them out. Exactly, so that's it. You just cut them out. It's the people in the middle who kind of go. Yeah. And I think you were right when you said about COVID. I think what COVID challenged for many people was the fact that this supply chain of food is not as it's not as robust as we like to think it is.
Yeah. Oh. People take for granted of how reliant we are on that. Like we're a couple of big tankers full of fuel away from not having anything on the shelves.
That's right. We're that's right. We're literally remove the AdBlue diesel additive, and there's no more trucks, and there's no more trucks. There's no more food. Chicken nuggets. Sorry. That's it. No more Salt Bay. No more Salt Bay.
Speaking of the ones, what was your analogy with the diving scorers?
Yeah, the scorers, they cut
chop the bottom off.
The scores, they cut the top and the bottom off, and it's the scores in the middle that they count.
Talk to us about the bottom rung of the voters, Craig. You would have had a lot of feedback over the last week or so. Did you get any crazies?
I've only had one death threat.
Only one?
One, mate. You need to pick the game up.
It's only one. It's only week one.
That's not an invitation, by the way. Anyone that's listening, please don't start sending me death threats.
Won't get them from our friends.
What's that meme? You got to push those numbers up. They're rookie numbers.
Yeah, exactly. No, we tried to, we tried our best to push some buttons, but no, we've had no negative feedback apart from one crazy person that was going to have a crack at knocking me off the perch. But that's it. Literally every single other bit of feedback has been 100% positive.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I was nervous about, and I'll be honest, I was nervous about the approach that we took, which it was soft, and I was nervous from my peers and the hunting community coming back saying, that was too soft, or that was whatever. That's what I was worried about, and it hasn't happened yet. Maybe people are thinking it and they haven't said anything, but it's been no.
For what it's worth,
around it.
I give you one tiny little bit of negative feedback. It was too short. I wanted more. I wanted more. I didn't want it to stop.
You want to call that constructive feedback.
Yeah. That's funny that you say that, because I didn't actually watch it on the big screen before. Like when we were editing it, it felt like forever because we were going through it constantly. We were changing it. We had to change it for the network, and then we had to have rounds of changes. And by the time it actually got to a finished product per episode, we probably watched it 100 times. So it just felt like forever. And then one, I guess, thing about having it go to air so long down the track after we'd finished post-production was that, I got to watch it with relatively fresh eyes. And I thought the exact same thing. I thought, oh, God, that went quick. It was only half an hour. So
with ads.
Maybe with ads. So maybe series 2 will be 1 hour. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, that's always the problem with, writing or, in your case, video production around hunting. There's and it was explained to me once when I first started writing, there's this, the stack 'em and whack 'em crowd. And then there's the philosophical crowd, and it's very, very hard to find the balance point between the people who want the philosophy of what you're doing and the people who go, I want to see them down.
Drop them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Less talk and more shooting.
That's
it's hard to find that balance.
That's a very, very good way to describe it. I haven't been able to pull the words together to describe it, but yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly right. That's what we were trying to do. We're trying to find that happy medium. But, look, you're never going to please everybody, but at the end of the day, I'm really proud of what everyone that has been involved has achieved, and I couldn't thank everyone that helped out. Like all the guys and girls on camera, everyone behind camera, like. Yeah, massive achievement, I think, that to actually pull it off, not only during COVID, but to actually get it onto Australian TV is, I'm pretty happy about that.
I mean, you mentioned a couple of times about, the changes for networks. Can you talk about that? Is that?
I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I mean, essentially what happened was, we put it out there through distribution and we had networks come back and essentially agree to taking it on. And, I'm a bit old school like that. If someone says they're going to do something, especially if there's a contract, I expect it to happen, and
I'm assuming you're doing all the work based on the fact that, there's an income at the other end.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was the other thing, like we did have some sponsors for the show, but it was a pretty expensive show to make. Like it was a lot of time and a lot of people involved, and that was majority of that was funded by us, by our production company. We had some gear supplied. We did have some financial support through OSA. Give them a shout out. They put some money towards it. Mystery Ranch. Can I give them a plug?
Go back to OSA first. What does that stand for? Or should I know?
You should know.
This always happens.
Outdoor sporting agencies. So they're a distributor here.
We've had them on the show, but
yeah.
Oh, have we now? That lot.
Who did you have?
That was Craig Golding.
Is it?
And for a time, Steve Kelly, I believe. Okay. He was the UK version.
Was he OSA?
I don't know those guys, but anyway, So they were.
Sorry, Craig.
That's all right. They were a major sponsor. OSA major sponsor. Dog and Gun Coffee. Those guys are awesome. Sean and Rach and Corey. They were. I literally met Sean. Actually, this is a little backstory. I met Sean. We were talking about it at Wild Deer. I met him just as he was kicking off Dog and Gun, when we were just starting the show, and he literally put cash up to sponsor the show out of his own pocket to help fund it, as a support for hunting and the hunting community. So hats off to those guys. They're massive supporters. Mystery Ranch backpacks, they put in a little bit of coin and threw the guys some backpacks to wear. So we had some product support and a little bit of funding supports from OSA, but the rest of it was funded by us. So one thing I didn't want to do was give the show away for nothing, essentially. I didn't want, any of the networks to try and bully us into basically taking our show and taking our IP. So we held our ground and didn't give it away for nothing. And Foxtel's where we ended up. So it's probably all I can really say on that.
No, that's all right. You can read between the lines.
No problem. I suppose what kind of jumped in my head though is being that it's Australian content there's actually requirements for Australian content. Is that something that you're leveraging off?
How do you mean?
Well, I thought there was requirements placed on the networks to develop Australian content. That's why we've got, Come See Me Dance chef shows and all that kind of stuff.
Unfortunately, I think
there's still that compile of the things saying that's Australian content.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think a hunting TV series is very low on their agenda at this stage. I think, unfortunately. But look, we're continuously working to change that, and I think one thing that everyone can do, if they do watch the show and they like it, send Foxtel an email and tell them that you
That's
like
great. I think that's great. I think we need to highlight that.
Yeah.
Send them an email. Say, this is it. I think that's really good.
Yeah, and I think the more that we can do that, the more that they know that they're getting an audience that they otherwise wouldn't have had, because there's a lot, like I've had that many people message saying, I don't have Foxtel or I don't have Binge, that have now said, stuff it, I'll get Binge now for $15 a month to watch it. So, if they get a couple of thousand new members from it, or whatever you call it, subscribers from it, it's got to be worth something to them. So
that is a good idea.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you like it, send Foxtel an email. It's on Real Life, by the way, channel 121.
Yeah.
So the channel's called Real Life. It's a new channel that's all about it's observational documentaries. So
is that one of those ones in the free to air right up the top range? Oh, okay.
Well, no, it's not free to air. It's available on their standard Foxtel package, and then that it's actually a streaming obdoc channel that's streamed into Binge, streamed into My Foxtel On Demand. And
do they own Binge?
Yeah.
So that's how you can stream it. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was that one called? And what was that station called? Or the channel called?
The channel's Real Life.
Real Life.
And it's channel 121.
Yeah, cool. Wow. So you alluded to season 2. Yep,
we're onto it. We've got a couple of new guys and girls on board.
I'm just thinking there's an inherent problem with your title in season 2.
It's series 2.
Series 2 season. That's right.
Series 2 of the season.
That's it. Series 2.
Season marketing.
I've thought about this.
That's right. Series 2. I like it. That's better. Yeah.
Yeah. Series 2 of the season. So we've got a couple of new guys and girls on board for the next one, plus a few of the old favourites.
Cool.
So we've got some really exciting stuff coming up. We're going to start filming at the end of this month, actually. So heading up to Coburg Peninsula for some dangerous game. So it's going to kick the series 2 of the season off with a bang, literally.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic! And now you've obviously got a supporter in Foxtel. It's not going to be a big wait for you. It'll just roll through.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And so all those emails coming through is going to back that up. And
that's a great idea. Yeah, I think that's something we can certainly get behind.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to start that off. One thing that we are going to try and incorporate more of into season 2 is a bit of spearfishing. And a little bit of fly fishing or trout fishing as well. One thing that I really wanted to do that I think is important is tie the similarities between spearfishing and bow hunting and fishing and hunting, on water, underwater, on land. I think that fishing is so widely accepted as a general rule that why isn't hunting? And so I want to try and tie that tie those two things together and put them on the same platform and put them through at the same level so people can understand that it's all part of the same.
Yeah, it's a pursuit of game.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it feathers, fins, and fur?
Yeah,
I think that's
a good one. That's a good name.
Yeah, well, it's what it is, really, isn't it? I mean, it's a pursuit of game, depending, and it all depends.
It's a new TV show, Mark. It's a new TV show.
Okay.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Hang on a minute.
Okay, I'm away. And we're away. Yeah, that's it. So I mean, and I mean, you really get kind of wacky when you get into fishing, because if you think about trout, they're actually an introduced species, and we treat them like, we treat them like rolled gold.
Yeah.
Well, most of us do. That's it, so that, it is an interesting quandary, that one. Why is fishing so readily accepted, and not even just catch and release, fishing for the table, we even call them table fish. We call them table fish.
Yeah.
You know, where, depending on where you're around the country, you know, you are going out to catch fish to eat. That is what you are doing.
Yep.
And away you go. And, you know, and everyone is thinking that's just a fantastic, well, not everyone, but the vast majority of people think that's a completely acceptable, worthy pursuit. You know, it's good for kids. It's all these things. It helps them, you know. Okay.
My son's daycare teacher didn't think it was very good.
No, well, there is some.
Really?
Oh no! Unfortunately, my little boy went to daycare and he talked about cutting things heads off. And when we got to the bottom of that, it was because we'd just come off Fraser, and that's how you kill a tailor, right? You take its head off, bleed it, do those sorts of things. But unfortunately, not everyone has the same lifestyles, Mr. Hurley, and we need to educate your son to be quiet. And it didn't go down too well. Anyway, we sorted it out.
I wouldn't imagine so. Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Sorry about that one.
Yeah, it doesn't stop. We started taking in cast antlers and things like that to daycare to show people how to use them for rattling sticks.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's actually a really cool thing. Yeah, I've got a 3-year-old son, and he's actually been on a couple of hunting trips already with us. You know, he's helped me butcher deer and stuff. We just want to really normalize it, and it's something that you know, it's always like sat with me. Like I just don't know how to. I think it's one of those things. You just like you don't want to force it on them. But so you don't want to scare them away, but then you also want to make sure that they're around it so it becomes the norm. And and I think one thing you touched on it there, that the casties, like I want to take them out castie hunting and just cruise around and see if we can find some antlers. That's just a cool way to get the kids out. And we also hunt monsters in the front yard with the bow and arrow. So that's always a fun. That's always a bedtime activity.
I found with my boys, fishing was the gateway drug, you know?
Yeah.
And fishing for food too, by the way. So catch and release might be confusing, but fishing for food was pretty much straightforward. We'd catch it if it was the right. So we'd, you know, there was the question of, is this the right fish to keep? If it wasn't the right fish to keep, wrong size, something like that, we'd put it back in. We'd make sure, you know, we released it. But if we weren't going to release it, we were going to keep it. There was a very distinct reason for that, and it turned into food. And I've got a photo of him, you know, 3 or 4 years old, and he's got his little kid's, knife. So a little red plastic handle and a little blade, and he's just holding it on the whiting, and that was the journey for him to understand food, or the beginning of that journey. Though I've got 2 boys, and my youngest, who's only 2 years young, he's not interested really at all in hunting. But my eldest is complete. You know, it consumes him. You know, and we got a 15-meter archery range here, and we shoot bow and arrow. Here, and his mates come over and they shoot too, and we got a pig and a fox target, so we're not just shooting a target. Awesome. This funny pig thing, and they pat it around and stuff. I found that fishing was a great way into it. And when he was 6, I took him on his first hunt. And we got a pig in state forest, and we butchered the pig for some of the meat. And he's looked at that thing for about an hour, and he just studied it and kind of went, oh, you know, well, that's, you know, and he was fascinated by it. And I think that's you
cool.
know, that was just him. His brother's not that particularly interested at all. And we hunt we go away once every year in winter. It's coming up in about 8 weeks. We'll go. And and that's actually, I've got a couple of stories about that, because each time he goes, he's getting closer and closer to participating rather than just being there for the adventure. But I found fishing was really the good thing that introduced him, because it was some people say like rabbits and things like that, because simply the size and, you know, but I didn't have that opportunity. So fishing provided that opportunity. Yeah. And his school has a thing called Class Dojo, which is this kind of closed loop social media system that schools use to communicate with the parents and stuff. So you join the Class Dojo group for their particular class. Yeah. And he's for, you know, so and it's just social media, but it's just a closed loop, and the teacher's got to accept who's in on it, and the teacher is the admin. So if the kids post something, it goes through teacher admin, all that stuff first. But it's a really good communication tool.
Yeah.
And he's always posting, pig skulls and stuff like that.
I love it.
He's always doing that. And the funny thing was, years ago when he was he was in daycare, and we had a gun safe inspection by the coppers, and they came around and they did the inspection, and he came home with his mum. She picked him up from daycare, and the coppers gave him one of those little junior detective stickers. And we just happened to have a heap of lanyards, so I put it on a bit of cardboard and put it inside a lanyard, so it was like a little neck. And he wore it to daycare. Actually, no, it was prep. We were at prep. He was in prep. He worked at prep the next day. And they asked him, where'd you get that? And he said something like, when the police came to talk to Dad about all these guns, they gave it to me. Something like that, something like that. And something innocently
unnatural,
diabolical like that. So
Yeah.
next time I went to pick him up, they went,
Can we have a word with you, please, sir? Step into the office.
can you explain this? Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, no worries at all.
So, yeah.
Well, I have a 5-year-old now, and he's a Metasaurus, so it was easy to show him how to turn a piece of rump off a leg that we could cut off into the pieces of steak that he was pointing to on the shelf at the supermarket. So he picked it up straight away. He knows that we've got a little farm out here. We run a few sheep, so we hang those up.
Yep.
Now he doesn't participate in slaughtering them, but certainly once they're hanging and we're butchering, he loves it. He likes to understand all of the bits and pieces, and I'm okay with that. Once the blood's gone and the guts are gone and everything, it's all just fine.
Yeah.
But we watch various different little shows on YouTube and things like that are okay for him to watch. And I've got an indicating dog that I take hunting when I go chasing deer, and I caught him the other day with his suction cap bow and arrow, and Missy, my dog, stalking the chickens in the garden. I thought this is the coolest thing.
So good.
And I just sat back and watched him blinking away at chickens.
That's a proud dad moment right there.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. That's really good.
That's fantastic.
I mean, I'm just finishing off the buffalo mount downstairs. There's a pig skull around the side of the house, and then there's an old, last year's cold red deer stuck in a tree out the front. So
in the middle of the city. Yep, doing well there.
So.
All right. Hey, look, I might wrap it up here and just say what a pleasure it's been to have you on the show, Craig. Great backstory, all of the insights that are coming into what the season's going to be. I'm really looking forward to it. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to play out with various different personalities and whether we were going to go on a longer term journey with them, but I've certainly understood that now, and can't wait for tomorrow night for episode 2. So thanks for sharing. I think it's been awesome. Love to have you back at some point when we're further through the season to check in, see how it's all going.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having us, guys, and really appreciate the support and look forward to catching up next time.
Mate, we appreciate your time and sharing your stories with us, and I think that the takeaway is let's promote contacting Foxtel.
Yeah, get behind
sending
it.
those emails. Let's let's think about it. They're a business. Let's tell them that there's people out there who want their product.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're on Instagram, jump on our Instagram, the season AU, and give us a follow or drop us a DM and start the conversation. And if there's anything that you want to see for the second series, maybe get in touch.
Good stuff.
Great. I was going to say, I was just looking at it. I'm sure we're already there on the Instagram thing.
Oh, yeah, we're there. Yep.
You guys are.
Yeah,
We've been there for a year.
That's me not so subtly telling you that I don't really understand how Instagram works.
I'm all over it. It's okay, Mark.
I'm glad that you don't.
Settle
I
down.
don't understand either because
That's it. That's right. Luckily, Ian's there with the Instagram thing. I'm okay with Facebook. I've got the Facebook figured out.
just search it because I can't actually remember what our handle is. So
no, the trouble I have with Instagram is I can't ever seem to find out how to actually access the DMs. I don't know where it tells me there's a message from someone. I can't find the messages. It says there's a message.
It's because you don't access your DMs. You got to slide into them. You got to
That's
slide
right.
into your DMs.
That's it.
That's right. Yeah.
It's another art.
That was a dad joke. Sorry,
art.
I apologise.
Very good. All right. Have a good evening. Thank you, Craig. We'll chat to you again.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
See you guys.